I believe we are live.
We'll just wait for the delay. We sure are.
Yes, we are.
Cool beans.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our spring ephemeral Yardversity event as we take to our backyards to document some of the wonderful things that we have in our backyards. My name is Ethan Bott, and I'm joined by our colleagues and a wonderful volunteer. I'll let everybody introduce themselves, but we're so excited to spend this morning with you all and see what we have in our backyards.
I'm Tim. It's great to be with you this morning, part of the research team at the Urban Ecology Center. And I'll introduce Jen, who's not only a volunteer, but just a wonderful colleague, does great work around Milwaukee in several aspects. And we're just so delighted that she's here. So Jen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I work with the community science team here in a couple of other nature centers. I've become kind of a specialist as an amateur in bumblebees and other native bees. And I also do a lot with gardening for our insects. I'm a master gardener volunteer as well. So I do some programming with that also. But this has been a super fun project. I've loved being involved with it and getting to know even more all the little things that are in my yard.
Great.
My name is Maggie Steinhauer. I'm also part of the research team here at the Urban Ecology Center.
This is wonderful. So Yardversity, what is it? Ethan, do you want to let folks know what this project is all about?
Yeah, so Yardversity is a project where we are using a free app called iNaturalist, or it's a website where you can kind of create an account. And basically, we're trying to look at the biodiversity in our backyards. It's a under-researched, under-known, or not well-known area that we don't really know what's going on. And so using this app called iNaturalist, it allows the community from around the world to submit photos of the observations in their backyard, whether it's a tree, an insect, any type of living organism, and some non-living organisms that you can submit. And the community actually helps identify the photo to become eligible to be used in research projects around the world. So you don't need to know anything about how to identify stuff. All you need is to be able to take a picture and upload it into the project. So for those of you who have never used it before, I'll go through a quick tutorial on how to use iNaturalist. For those that know how to do it, you can go ahead and get out into your backyard and start collecting observations. Today, we're kind of focusing on spring ephemerals in general, at least for those tuning in from the Midwest, as spring ephemerals are kind of the, generally are in their prime, depending on where you live in the Midwest. Yeah, feel free to add anything else, team, about Yardversity and what we're doing.
Yeah, I just like to say, I think it's this is a really great way for folks to know better, to really better understand the land that is closest to them. So your backyard, there's so much in our backyards. I think we use our backyards for often for grilling or for playing in or gardening. But what I really love since I've started doing Yardversity is paying attention more to the small stuff and the little bugs, the little insects, the little flowers poking through the grass. All of that has really become more, I'm more attuned to it. And it's really more fun to just see how my backyard is helping plant and insect communities. And it's so easy to do. So encourage you to look into it. Ethan's going to talk a little bit about how easy it is, but you can contact anybody you see on your screen now if you want more information.
So the plan for today, we'll spend the next little bit kind of going through how to use iNaturalist, how to actually submit data to this cool community science project. And then at 10:30, we're actually going to kind of get more personal. We're going to really dive into some of the findings and the data that we've collected over the past year. So for the first half hour until 10:30, we'll be here on YouTube Live. And then for those that registered, I sent an email link to the Zoom chat or into the Zoom call that we'll be all kind of like joining, where you can ask more questions about the data specifically. And then at 11, we'll go into trivia. So again, at 10:30, we'll all be on Zoom. So please let us know in the chat if you do not have the link, and I will try to get that Zoom link to you. Do you want to talk any more about Yardversity and kind of how it started, when it started, or it's been about a year, kind of a recap of where things have come and gone?
Well, this is give a shout out to our colleague Chris Lepchek from the University of Auburn University, and it's been a goal of his as an urban ecologist who's done great work, particularly with urban birds, to better understand how our backyards act as an ecosystem, as a plant community. You know, their yards tend to be divided from each other, and some are isolated, but if you take the collective landmass, there's a lot of backyards in the world. And so understanding a little bit about how backyards can help with conservation is really a kind of exciting field of work that's really embraced by a professor named Doug Tallamy at New Hampshire or Delaware, I think, somewhere in the Northeast. I forget which university he's from, but he's done some really great work that's showing how small changes you make in your backyard do affect certain groups of animals, particularly the insects, the invertebrates, that so much else relies on, probably way more impactfully than we originally thought. So yeah, if you're talking about wolf conservation, yes, you need large tracts of contiguous habitat. But for a lot of and for a lot of insects, you also need contiguous habitat or patches. But our backyards can be habitat patches that are, some invertebrates in particular, some birds and some others really rely on. Sometimes it's an oasis in the middle of nowhere. It's maybe their only way to get from point B to point A is to go to point C, which might be your backyard first. So just so much great work, and that's led to this Yardversity project. And we'll talk a little bit more about the stats, but Jen Lazuski is by far the biggest contributor to this, and she's joined by quite a few others that have really put in some great work. And in fact, we've had somebody from the country of Switzerland who has put in a lot of backyard observations, and now is, I think, the third biggest contributor to the project. So we'll talk about some of those details, but just been really excited about it.
Great. Thanks for that recap, kind of helping us talk through the history of the project and kind of why we're doing that. I'm wondering, Jennifer, if you'd be willing to share kind of what your perspective of being on the project and being one of the largest contributors to the project, and kind of what it means to you and why you're doing this and what you're excited about for Yardversity.
Well, I think, nature has been a huge salvation for a lot of us during this last year. And thinking about what's right outside your back door that you don't have to travel at all for. I'm in a very urban neighborhood. So for me, kind of walking in the neighborhood hasn't been a big thrill. I've done it, as everybody tries to stay active, but being able to have time during this past year, because I've been working at home more, to really think about what's in my yard, how to improve it. And, the Yardversity has been one of the ways that you can see what's there, what's not there. Even with kind of these little snippets, just in the mornings for a certain amount of time, it's a great way to get started and to learn to appreciate what you have there. And I've always kind of looked for small as well as large, but I'd gotten busy and I'd kind of gotten out of the habit of, learning all these great little things that are in my yard, good bugs, bad bugs, super cool things like ambush bugs that are like little mini praying mantis that I've been finding all over, and some of the different wasps. So it's really been fascinating to me because I still have a lawn. I'm in an urban area. I've made an effort to put in a fair amount of natives, but I'm still probably less than 50% plants in my yard. And I still have all these really cool things. And so that's a great thing to learn about as you build your habitat and think, oh, if I just add this little bit more, that'll be that much more for birds and insects and everything else. Because last spring I was around my yard a lot more and I actually saw a couple of warblers in it. So, there can be really exciting things when you start to pay attention. And that's what's been fun about it. I do feel like my numbers are a little different because I have a second place in Florida. That's my yard. So outside of our condo have been a lot of really cool things too. So I've kind of cheated with 2 yards. But it's actually been fun there too, because I'm more inclined to go out to see things there than to just pay attention to what's going around right around me, to just sit in a chair for a while and relax and hear the birds and try to figure out what's there.
And you bring up a good point, Jen, because it is Yardversity, but it doesn't have to be your yard. We definitely encourage you to explore your yard, but it could be somebody else's yard. It could be you're on vacation and you're at a relative's house or a friend's house and their yard. It doesn't matter where the yard is. Everybody can contribute. So the more yards we get and the farther distance we get in adding new places is really going to help enrich this data set. And a lot of these data sets start off with this kind of fun aspect to it. But then as they grow, the data become valuable, a little more valuable to analyze for trends. And so even this early data is good for anecdotes and for presence, absence, and things like that. But the more we put into it, you can start doing some statistics and really look for some important relationships.
On the non-science end, I'll have to say I've had a lot of fun with my neighbors because I've gotten them to do this with me. We had a super fun time with the moth night party. My neighbor, who loves all his gadgets, got out, got a big black light. We did the sheet on the garage. We did a little adult party thing, I'll admit, since it was evening, but it did so much to connect us to each other, to have that chance kind of during that year that we could really sit and talk to each other and have some fun. We saw these I had no idea the katydids in my yard were that big. We saw a praying mantis, going across a wire. We had all kinds of fun things going on that everybody really had a good time with that.
I think another really cool thing about the project is that, with the pandemic, there's been a fundamental shift in kind of what people value and really how they spend their money. And they're putting a lot of time into their yards, into their houses, into their homes. And so if they're spending more time in their backyards, this is a chance to be able to learn more about what's in your yard because you're spending time, and that's like where you're spending your free time and your energy and your passion. So I think it's a really great, it's fortunate timing and unfortunate timing, I guess I should say, with the pandemic, but provided a unique opportunity to learn more about one's backyard.
And it's been about a year. And Maggie, I'm just curious if you have any takeaways from this past year from Yardversity that you thought about. Positive, negative experiences?
I think I want to get more involved going forward. I haven't done too many observations outside of events. But when I have gotten a chance to go out, and I have a really nice backyard view right here. So if you see me looking out my window, it's because I was trying to ID some sparrow that's been hopping around, but I don't have my binoculars with me. But just like some of the really cool stuff that, I just haven't noticed before. Like last summer there was, I forgot what species it was. I couldn't get a good enough picture of it, but there was this spider inside of, I think it was of a flower, but it was a really deep flower. And it was out, and like as soon as I got close to it, it withdrew. And just like things like that, that normally, even if I'm out there like picking tomatoes from the garden or something, you don't normally see. But if you just take an extra minute to peek a little bit deeper, there's a lot of interesting little things going on. And I might actually have to go run and get my binoculars because there are some interesting things as we speak.
Great. Well, while Maggie goes and grabs her binoculars, I think we should kind of move into an opportunity for you all to collect data. So at this time, if you already know how to use iNaturalist, if you have an account, I encourage you to go to your backyards, your yard, space that you consider your yard, and go ahead and take some photos of spring ephemerals. Maybe you know how to identify them. That's great. Go ahead and still take a picture of that and put it onto the Yardversity, tag that Yardversity project in iNaturalist. And for those of you that don't know how to use iNaturalist, I'm about to take you through a quick tutorial. So go ahead and stay tuned, stay watching as I take us through it. So again, if you know how to use it, feel free to head to your backyard and start collecting some observations. I'm going to ask that you all download the free app called iNaturalist. I'll show you what it looks like in just a second. Let me share my iPad screen. It's a lot easier collecting observations on your smartphone because you can take the picture with your phone and immediately upload it. So if you look here in the bottom middle corner, you'll see that green bird, iNaturalist. Go ahead and download iNaturalist and go ahead and click on it. You may have to create an account so it won't pop up right to this, to my profile page. But go ahead and go through the steps to create your account. And if it's a brand new account, you'll have 0 observations here. Okay, so the very first thing you need to do is actually join the correct project because we want you to be adding the data to the Yardversity project because then we know that it's really actually from your backyard and it's not just some observation from a nearby park or something like that. So what you're going to do, and again, this is only for Apple right now. Android is a tiny bit different, but hopefully you can follow along if you have an Android. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on that Suitcase Projects button in the bottom right-hand corner. And you are going to click in the top bar and you're going to search Yardversity. I don't even have to finish spelling it and it pops up. You'll kind of see that yellowish, greenish, bluish logo. You're going to go ahead and click on that project. And then in the top left, you'll see that where it says leave. You're actually, I'm already a part of it, and you will click join. You see the leave option, that means you are already part of the project. So go ahead and click that join in the top left-hand corner if you see that, and you are now officially part of the Yardversity project in iNaturalist. And at a quick glance, you can see that there's some observations. We have over 1,300 observations, over 600 species, 64 people have observed stuff, and we have almost 400 people helping identify the species. So these are people from the community from really around the world that are helping identify all the species that you all are collecting. All right, now you're ready to head to your backyard and start collecting observations to add to the project. So I'm going to go ahead and click back here in the top left-hand corner. I'm going to kind of click out, cancel. And you're going to go to that bottom middle photo where it says observe, where you see kind of a camera. I'm going to go ahead and click on the camera photo. And you're going to go ahead and, if you're live taking photos, you're going to go ahead and click that camera button. And it's going to open your camera up on your phone. You see that spring ephemeral, you're going to take that picture right then and there. While I'm inside and I do not have a spring ephemeral right in front of me, but I'll just pretend like I do. And so I'm going to click that camera button and you're going to see my screen right in front of me. And I'm going to pretend like this is the object I'm taking a photo of. Hopefully it's a living thing. You're going to go ahead and take that picture. Very blurry photo because I wasn't staying focused or wasn't staying still. You're going to go ahead and click use photo. Yes, we'll add it to my photo library with a beautiful photo. And now you'll see that photo in the top left-hand corner, my beautiful keyboard, dirty keyboard. Hopefully you have a spring ephemeral in there. And you're gonna go ahead and click on what did you see right below that. I'm gonna go ahead and click on that. It's not gonna pop up with anything great. But here I'll give you a list of species that it thinks it is. The iNaturalist website has a really good AI ability to identify things. And so it does a very good job. And usually that top option that you see will be the pretty close to the species that it should be. It varies greatly depending on the quality of the photo, what you took the photo of, like of a tree, did you take a picture of the bark, or the leaves, or the seeds, stuff like that. So go ahead and select that top option. We're just gonna pretend this was a house mouse. And I'm like, yeah, I think this is a house mouse. So I'm gonna go ahead and select house mouse. And you can see if you took the photo, if it's a smartphone, so it has location ability and stuff like that. You'll see that the photo I took, it remembered the date, the time, the location that I took it at, and that type of thing. So it's important to have time and location, right? Because if I saw a spring ephemeral in the middle of winter, and if that was actually true, that would be important for science to know. But I didn't, and so that's why it's important to have the right date and time and location. All right, so now I've identified my house mouse, and because this may be your backyard, you may want to kind of obscure your observation so the public can't see exactly where you took that photo. So you can go ahead and click on that geoprivacy, that kind of globe icon, and you're going to see open, obscured, and private. If you'd like to kind of hide your findings from the public, but still give the researchers access, you can move to obscured, kind of move that, hover over obscured, and you'll still share that exact location with researchers, but the public won't be able to see exactly where you took that. So kind of hiding a little bit of your privacy. The next question is captive or cultivated with that little fish in the fish tank. Because captive cultivated is kind of getting at, was there a true human, what I'm going to call interference with that? Did a human plant that flower? Did a human plant that tree? Or was it a bird that passed through the yard? Was it a mouse that kind of scurried on by that you took a picture of? That's the difference between captive and cultivated, right? So if a human had direct influence, directly planted, it's your dog, that would be captive. And cultivated would be, captive cultivated, and then it'd be no if it was not your dog or you did not plant that flower. So a spring ephemeral, maybe you bought it at the yard or the plant sale and you planted it, that would be cultivated, captivated, and you would go to yes. But if you did not plant it yourself, then you would keep it at no. All right, the most important part then, one of the most important parts is then making sure you add it to the Yardversity project. If you don't do that, your observation just goes to the mass world database and doesn't really get captured specifically in our project. So you're gonna go ahead and click on that suitcase icon where it says projects at the very bottom. And it's gonna load, and I'm a part of a lot of different projects. But if this is your first time joining, you should only have one option. And you'll see it says Yardversity Traditional Project. You're going to go ahead and turn that icon to the right where it turns green. And don't worry about the count, habitat, or the sex. And now it is a part of the project. So you can kind of go top left. And now you can see there's a 1 by the projects, meaning that I have successfully added a observation to the Yardversity project. I'm going to go ahead and click share here. Just to show you how it goes through. Let's see, I think I can see, yep, in my profile section, I'm seeing that it's uploading. I'm gonna be deleting this observation, obviously, but I just wanted to take you through the process. Please let us know in the chat if you have any questions on how to submit an observation to the Yardversity project. Very important to add the Yardversity project to it. But that is a very quick tutorial. And with that, we'll kind of move back to everybody else.
Great, thank you, Ethan. We are gonna wrap things up here and move over to the Zoom link soon, but it's really fun if you, regardless of whether you have a project or not, and I encourage you all to do that. Anybody can visit the Yardversity page on iNaturalist. Just click iNaturalist Yardversity, and you can see that it's really fun to just explore all of the sightings. You can see the most observed species are house sparrows, followed by eastern gray squirrel. You can see who has the most species. You can see who has the most observations. We have 1,316 observations total, 606 species, 64 people, and then there's a lot more people that have helped with the project by verifying. And then, if you kind of scroll down the main page, you just see, again, we've got a lot of Swiss observations too, so that's pretty exciting. But you can see some of the photos, and European robin, Eurasian blue tit, cherry laurel, Eurasian blackbird. So it's a even if you're not involved in the project, you can still even go to that page and look. But again, I encourage everyone to give it a try.
I see there's a question in the chat about how to add it to the Yardversity project specifically. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen one last time because it is confusing. So if you are in the, you're getting ready to upload your own photo. So say you have your photo in the top right there, you have your location and your date and time correct. You've selected geoprivacy and whether it's captive or cultivated, or whether it's captive or not. And then in that little suitcase icon in the bottom portion where it says projects, you're going to go ahead and select projects. It's going to pull up all the projects you've already joined. And for most people, this will just be the Yardversity project. And then you'll just kind of click that icon to the right, to the little slidey icon, and it'll turn green. And you are now a part of the Yardversity project. And now you should see a 1 by the project that you joined, and then you can go ahead and click share.
And if I can kind of add as a user, you don't always remember that the first photo or two you take. So you can go back and edit and add it. And you do with the mobile app, at least as far as my experience, have to do that every time. It doesn't seem to hold that. And it's the same thing if you're working off of your computer. The app just looks a little bit different and you upload a little different. But depending on how like if you're doing a transfer from a camera, you may have to create locations and pin locations. So that part's a little, but it's not difficult, it's just different. So it is easiest to use from your phone, but if you're lucky enough to get a hawk in a tree and your phone camera is not going to get it, and you use a real camera, there's a way to do that too.
Yeah, that's correct. There's a lot of different functionality with the phone and with doing it on a computer with your own camera that you get some nice photos of. So with that, we're gonna, again, feel free to continue collecting data in your backyard. We're this month targeting spring ephemerals in your backyard. So go ahead and continue taking pictures. If you see other plants or animals that are popping up, feel free to take pictures of those, of course, and add them to the project. But at this point, we will be moving over to Zoom to kind of dive into a discussion on some of the findings. And we encourage you all to join us. You can have your camera off, you can stay muted the whole time, and we'll kind of just dive into some of the nitty-gritty stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream here on YouTube, and we're going to move over to Zoom. I'm going to share the Zoom link in the chat. Let's see if it works. Yeah, potentially it worked. I just posted it into the YouTube chat. So go ahead and click on that link. I also email it to everyone that registered. So go ahead and check your email to get that Zoom link. Please email me if you have any trouble getting in, and I will let you in. But we will let you into the Zoom call shortly here. So we hope to see you there any second. Now I need to figure out how to end the stream without ending the Zoom. End stream.